Hi there, and welcome back to another YouTube video. I've just put this one together today because I'm sitting in a group at the moment who are looking at multiple exposures, and I just thought this would be a really useful little video to share with that group and also share with you in general so everybody can enjoy it. I bring images together for various reasons. I love bringing my ICM images together. And either with natural non-ICM images or also with other ICM images. So what I've got here today for you is just a little play, bringing a few images of some light reflections off the canals in Bruges that I took back in December when I was there for a little photo trip. So without further ado, I'm going to move through into Photoshop and Lightroom. And in general, what I do is I always start working in Lightroom first of all. So there's a little section here of images that I could use here. We're just going to highlight them so you can have a look at them. And these are a selection of 6 images I have. You can see they've all got, I've already post-processed these, which is what I would suggest you do when you're working with bringing images together. You can see some of them are textural, some of them have quite strong striking elements in them. What's interesting about 4 of them is that these 4 on the edge all have areas that are kind of slightly empty compared to the other bits, which means if you bring other elements in, they've got somewhere to go. So that's something worth thinking about as well, depending on why you want to bring the elements or what you want to do. So for example, some of those ones around the edge, I might think, well, there's a bit of bare space, so I'm going to bring something else in from somewhere else to fill that space. So sort of to add a little bit of balance. So we're going to go back out here, and I'm just going to pick 2 of these to start with so it doesn't become too confusing. I'm going to pick these 2 images here. 2, not 4 of them. There we go. So if you haven't followed this with me before, you select your images, right click, edit in, and don't go to edit in Photoshop. That's okay, but they'll be brought through as separate images into Photoshop. It's best to drop down to the bottom and go as edit in as layers in Photoshop, because what that does is then the 2 images are brought through into Photoshop together and they create a stack straight away without you having to worry too much about doing it. Now, these did accidentally turn around in Lightroom. I did just notice before I brought them through. I don't think it's going to matter too much, although I might just decide to, I'm not sure what that green bit is there. We'll just get rid of that. So I'm just going to image. I'm just going to rotate it. Yeah, I think 90 degrees clockwise was what it was like before, and the same with the other one. Oh, it's done both of them anyway. That's handy. So now they're back to actually what they were before. So what we're going to do is we're going to see how we can bring these 2 together. So as I said, this one here on the bottom has got a nice open space. These 2 images have very contrasting elements. So one's quite neat little shakes. This one's got like slightly bigger movements. I've actually had fun in trailing the movements across the image. So the first thing I do is I try to figure out which one I want to do something to, and then which one is the extra image that I'm going to be brought to. And in this situation, I'm actually going to choose that this is my base image because I quite like this one, but it has an empty space. If I choose the other one as my base image, it's kind of like, where am I going to fit bits to it? Whereas this kind of has a little bit of an empty canvas on the left-hand side. So I think it's better to put this one on the bottom, as you see. You can just toggle the layers on and off with the little eyedroppers. What you want to do is select the top level. And the first thing you do is go into your blend modes. And this is set at normal. These are the blend modes here. But what I'd first do is just have a look at normal, because sometimes normal is quite fun to do. And if you ever do multiple exposures in camera, this is what's going to happen in your camera. The camera will give you like 50-50% if you're going on average blend mode. So this is kind of like what the camera will do. So 50-50, there we go. You've got a 50-50. It's quite nice. You've already got the 2 images merged. You might say that's exactly what you wanted, in which case, great, job done. But what we're going to do is look at the other blend modes and just see what happens when you blend them together. Now, each of these sets, you can see the sets are, you've got delineating lines in between them. So the top part will do sort of darken options, and they create you a darker, slightly more moody image. The next set down lighten the image in some way, give you a little bit of a fresher image. The next set down, the first 2 or 3 give you quite a soft combination result. And then the ones down at the bottom, I call my crazy, crazy merging blend modes. And you'll see what I mean. Now, what I love to do is literally just drop down and see what grabs my attention. And every time I come through these, I might like something completely different to the time before. So I've already spotted a couple of different ones that I like already. And you can see they all do very slightly different. When I say the sort of slightly wacky blend modes are down towards the bottom, it's different in exclusion. You get some very, very different things. I love blues and yellows. So actually I quite often, for example, I quite like that, but I'd want to go and play with it and see how to go about it further. But for the sake of today, we are going to choose a couple. I quite like this multiply, and I quite like the lighten here. So I'm just going to, let's have a look. Let's start with the multiply, okay? Just to have a look. Once you've chosen a blend mode that you quite like, what you can then do, again, the same as we did with the average, with the one at the start, but you can just play with the opacity and decide whereabouts you want it to stop. So I am just, what's that gone over there? I am also then going to just go back up to the lighten, because I think actually that has more of a feel of what I wanted. And then just go all the way back. Normally what I do is go all the way back and then I start bringing it up very slightly. Now, it's a little next stage on, but, you know, like I quite like that, but I am finding that maybe some of it's getting a little bit lost over here. Maybe I'd like to bring back just the ICM here. So this is the next stage on. You can now create a mask. So we are now going to, we've got a white mask here. I'm going to make sure that we've got black selected on the top. We're going to use the pen, and you'll see that I've got a cross, which means I've got my caps lock on. And I don't normally work at 100%. I normally work at about 50%. So let's do that. There we go. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to return what was the ICM underneath. So I actually want to lose anything that's not just the ICM there. So on my original picture, because I want to simplify this very slightly. I want it to be sort of really quite lovely. Right. Okay. So now everything up until this line here is the original image, and you can see I've blacked it out over here. So I quite like that. You might just, you could just see, you can always sort of soften it off a little bit. Again, softer, the less opacity you use, you can vary, you know, you can create your merge line more and more gentle as you go over there. So I'm going to actually stop there, okay, because I could go on, but I'm going to stop and just take you back into Lightroom. So if you're not worried about too much about coming back to this and editing it again, what you can do is flatten the image. By flattening image, what happens is that you make it back into like a standard size image. If you carry on all your layers, you're looking at something, probably for me, I'm looking at something closer to like 100 megabytes, which depending on how many images you do, you can very, very quickly fill up your, very quickly fill up your disk drive. So I'm now going to go to File and Save. And because I've come out of Lightroom, what it does is it just automatically pops it back in, and you'll see it coming in here in a minute, and it will come in back next to one of these two. It just decides which one to bring it back. But as soon as it's back in next to one of these two, then we will be able to have a little play with it further. And I do all my editing in Lightroom. You can carry on in Photoshop if that's where you feel comfortable, or Bridge, or wherever you do your editing. But for me personally, I like to work in Lightroom. So I'm just waiting for it to pop back here, and hopefully it will appear. There we go. So if you remember, we used this image and we used this image here. And we've got something that is a combination of the two now. So this is where I might just say, oh, that's a little bit distracting. I'm just going to have a little play with the crop. I do a lot of square crops, so I'm maybe going to see what I can do with a square crop on this one as a starter. So choose the 1 by 1. I like double L clicking. So if you click the L key once and you click it twice, what happens is everything around the edge disappears. So I am just going to get rid of that top bit. And so it's all about quite like that. Okay, so press return. Now I just want to punch the colours a little bit, just make it a little bit more golden. And so I'm just going to press the vibrance, maybe pull down the blacks a little bit, push the whites a little bit, possibly pull the contrast. Now I'm fairly careful with these. I'll pop these on and you can see I've already blown the highlights by doing that. So you then need to be a little bit careful about playing with that. But that's just a little walkthrough, to show you that I've gone from, let's have a look, put all these 3 images together now. That one, and that one. So let's see that we went, change those around if I can. Up there. Doesn't want to do that. There we go. So the 2 images on the top are the images I started with, and the one on the bottom I've created from the 2. And you can just see it's a bit of fun, to be honest, just sort of combining these images and seeing what you can come out with. I hope you enjoyed that little walkthrough. It's not too in-depth, but hopefully it's just interesting enough. And I'll pop some more of these videos on. So if you have any questions, please do drop them on the YouTube video. More than happy to answer any questions that you have. And thank you for watching.